Five students. Today is November 1st and we're week 13, day one. Today, we're going to be focusing a lot on combining everything we've learned together. So that is tables, graphs, and equations with proportional relationships. Our objectives today include the following. I can understand the relationship between proportional tables, graphs, and equations. Language is I can write ratios and equations for tables and graphs. And social is I can prepare for the group quiz by collaborating with all my teammates. The group quiz will be happening on Wednesday and Thursday. For today's schedule, we'll go over the homework review, followed by some notes. So please take out your notebook. Then you'll have time to work on your worksheet. Finally, the plan. So we're going to be taking notes on proportional relationships, tables, graphs, and equations. So please make sure you write that down as your title. .1, proportional relationships. Tables, graphs, and equations. So for our first example, we're going to be comparing teaspoons versus tablespoons, two very common forms of measurements in cooking. If you didn't know, 3 teaspoons is equal to 1 tablespoon. And part of your homework today for proportional relationships number 4 will ask you to write 3 equivalent ratios. You can think of equivalent ratios as ratios that equal to 1 to 3. So one of the ratios we have is 1 to 3 because it's always y to x. So 1 is our y, 3 is our x. One way we can write an equivalent ratio is by multiplying by any number. Give me a number you guys want to multiply by. 2, sure. Multiply 1 by 2. Multiply 3 by 2. That means 2 tablespoons is going to give us 6 teaspoons. Okay. So another ratio is 2 to 6. Class, give me another multiply. 10, sure. We can take any number, let's say we choose 1, we multiply that by 10. And 3 by 10. 30 teaspoons is equal to 10 tablespoons. This goes back to the idea that depending how much you want to make, sometimes you might be making for yourself, for a couple people, for a party, for a family, it changes your measurements. And then can I get one last multiplier?
40. 70.
We'll do 4. Okay. So you can pick any number and you can multiply from that number. So let's say we started at 10 and we want to multiply by 4. So I'm going to write the last one. The other ratio is 10 to 30. And then the last ratio is going to be 10 times 4 is 40. And 30 times 4 is 120. So 40 to 120. Yeah, those are our 3 additional ratios that are equivalent to 1 to 3. Once we have our ratios, we can write the equation for this. And the equation is very similar to what you saw earlier. The equation is always y equals kx, but k in this case, we'll use a different color for k. K is what on y to x ratio is. So if I want to write this again, I have y equals y to x times x. And our lowest form for y to x is going to be 1, 2, 3, right? So instead of writing y equals y to x, we can write y is equal to 1/3 x. That will be our equation. Okay. Y equals 1/3 x. So regardless of what number I plug in, it's going to give me the answer. If I take 30 for my x, and I plug it in, 1/3 of 30, 1/3 times 30 is going to give me 10. If I plug in 120, 1/3 of 120 is going to give me 40. So whatever number I plug in for x, I'm going to get the same y as the table. This is how we use the table to write equivalent ratios and inequalities. For example, 2, we're going to do a graph. So I forgot to mention that there's different ways to write y equals kx, but this is in simplest form. So you can see another way is y equals to 2/6x. That's another one that works, right? But it's simplified will be y equals 1/3 x. You can also have y equals to 10/30x, or y equals to 40/120x. These are all the same thing as y equals 1/3 x. So for our next example, it involves a proportional graph. And I think you guys all realize there is a proportional relationship between nickels and pennies. What do we know about pennies and nickels? How do they relate? Yeah, but what about the coins? What's the relationship? If I would do the exchange, what type of exchange would I do? So let's say I had,
For every nickel it's 5.
for every nickel will be 5 cents. What about if I had 2 nickels?
It'll be 1 cent? 10. No, 10.
10 cents, right? So for 2 nickels, I would have 10 cents. So that's between the 0 and the 20. What if I had 4 nickels?
20.
20 cents, right? So I think you guys know how to fill out the table. So go ahead and do that between the relationship between nickels and pennies. Okay, so we know that for 2 nickels, we get 10 cents. 4 nickels will be 20 cents, 20 pennies. 10 nickels will be 50 cents, so that'll be 50 pennies. 8 nickels will be 40 cents, so 40 pennies. And then, 6 nickels will be 30 cents. And then you connect your points to form a line. You know you have a proportional graph if it goes through the origin. So proportional graphs, and I'm going to write in capital letters, must go through the origin. So here's the origin. It goes exactly through the origin. If you have 0 nickels, you're definitely going to have 0 pennies. If you have 0 tablespoons of sugar, you're definitely going to have 0 teaspoons of sugar. So 0, 0 tells you that it's proportional. Now that we have our graph, we need to come up with some ratios. Can I get one ratio based on what we have from the graph? What's one of our ratios? And remember, it's always y to x. Indigo? 20:4, yes. 20:4 is one of our ratios.
30:6.
30:6 is another ratio.
50:10.
And 50:10, yeah. So we have at least 3 equivalent ratios. But now I want to find the K value, right? So what do I do here? How do I find the K value between those two numbers? What do I do to find the K value? Cindy? Yeah, we just divide. So 20 divided by 4 is going to give us 5. 30 divided by 6 is still going to give us 5. And 50 divided by 10 is still going to give us a 5. So K equals 5. Therefore, our final equation is going to be y is equal to 5x. Okay, y equals 5x. There's many ways you can write this equation, right? You can write y equals to 20 over 4x, y equals to 30 over 6x, and y equals to 50 over 10x. But the simplest form will be y equals 5x. And that is all for notes. Okay, so now that we are done with our notes, the next thing, we're going to be working in pairs or as a group. Make sure you raise your hand when you reach the first checkpoint, which is halfway through the page. And then second checkpoint is at the bottom of the page. After that, so let me fix that, complete half page. And then second checkpoint is the bottom of the page. And self-signature demonstrates mastery. Lastly, for your homework, proportional relationship number 4, the worksheet, and then the exit ticket, which is a Google form. For extra credit, you can do K2 for easy and K5 for hard. Both involve finding equations. One is for a table, the other is for a graph. We will have a group quiz on Wednesday and Thursday because we're halfway through the unit. So please make sure you are collaborating with your teammates. Take care and have a nice day.